So, one of the lawmakers who we talked to the most, I think, this legislative session and who you heard from the most, because man, he was just on fire all session, is State Representative Travis Couture, a Republican representing R-Allyn in the surrounding areas. And he was also one of the big, well, I feel bad because Republicans have budget leads, but they basically don't get to do anything. So they can put forth ideas, which he did, but then Democrats didn't include Republicans in any of their budget discussions. So I know it was a tough couple days for Representative Travis Couture, especially with his frustration over the budget. He joins us today to talk about it. This segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. Representative Couture, welcome back to Undivided.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Brandi.
Yeah, it's been quite the session for you. I would say we played more clips from you than any other state lawmaker because you give some damn good floor speeches, but you were also pretty emotional, sometimes angry, sometimes, in tears this session. What was that about? Has it just been a particularly bad session on a policy front?
This was a brutal session. I called it a five-alarm, white-hot raging dumpster fire. It was probably the worst session. There's some people like Joe Schmidt that have been around and Ed Orcutt who've been around for like 20 years or more, and they were even saying this was the worst session they've ever remembered. But there was a lot of emotion because the budget that the Democrats put together and a lot of the policy that they put together they're gonna hurt people. They're going to hurt people that need us the most. They're going to hurt our businesses and our families. And I love this state, and I don't want to see it flush down the toilet because of Democrat policies and the largest set of tax increases in state history.
Yeah, so we'll get into some of the details of those taxes, but obviously Bob Ferguson has said he's going to take a couple weeks reviewing the budget and then come out with whatever sort of thoughts he has on it. So I guess two questions on that front. Do we anticipate that a special session is still possible or no?
Anything's still possible,
Okay.
but based on the governor's statement, I think that he's just going to be in his first term signing the largest set of tax increases in state history is kind of how it sounded. And as you know, the governor can not sign the budget and it still becomes law, or he can veto the entire budget, or he can veto sections. He can't do line item vetoes. So the way these taxes are put together, he can choose to veto them all, and it would ruin the budget, so to speak. It would throw it out of balance. Or, but it sounds like he's just going to continue full speed ahead. The statement he put out seems like he's satisfied with it, and that's sad.
Yeah, and taking a victory lap. Oh, it would have been much worse if not for me. And I kind of predicted this, that he's going to act like the one playing hardball. And at the end of the day, he'll sign new taxes. And I think it was a way to distance himself from that. And it's like, oh, but I pushed back and legislative Democrats sort of own this. What do you make of, him coming out and I don't know that he's blaming Donald Trump for our existing budget crisis, but sort of saying our state needs to steel itself for what's to come under Donald Trump with tariffs and the economy. Given how we got here and who put us in this position, it's really something to turn around and blame a president, any president, for it.
Yeah, it's frankly, it's absurd. All of the things that Democrats are protesting about and complaining about, whether it be Trump or Elon Musk or whoever it is at the federal level, and the supposed cuts and tariffs that they're making. Just across the border in Idaho, they're under the same tariff scheme as Washington State, but they delivered hundreds of millions of dollars of tax relief to their citizens. And they seem to manage their budget quite well. Other states are managing their budget quite well. And frankly, regardless of who was president, whether it be Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, we would have still gotten this budget. We would have still gotten this from the Democrats in Olympia. They still went from a $15 billion surplus to a $15 billion deficit based purely upon their budget negligence. Our economy is not in recession. We didn't have any economic problems, but now we'll be stealing well over $10 billion from our economy. And what did we get for it? I said on the floor that the only winners in this budget are politicians, bureaucrats, and criminals. I mean, we increased services for illegal immigrants, and we stole services from our own citizens in order to balance this budget, and it's wrong. Of course, a lot of the new spending is pay increases for bureaucrats, and at a time when we couldn't afford to do so. An 8% increase in spending, an 8% increase of spending during a $15 billion deficit. That's just so irresponsible and reckless. The budget was visionless from the beginning, and probably because they cut out my entire side of the aisle. I didn't get to be a part of it. Republican Party didn't get to be a part of it, House or Senate. And that cuts out 3 million plus constituents and Washingtonians across the state that we represent. And in the final stages of the budget, they completely rewrote the thing in the basement and in the cover of darkness. No chance to amend it, no chance to have public testimony or hearings. That's just simply wrong. That's not transparent and open government.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many things to say, but I think you hit it on the head, and people need to understand, because I don't think the media will do a proper job explaining it. We were in a fantastic place economically, on a budget perspective, and I remember in 2019, Republicans telling Democrats, you need to make sure you're putting money in a way. You need to stop this sort of level of increased spending. So there was ample time to avoid a situation like this, correct?
Right, exactly. There was a lot of time, and it was all decisions made in Olympia that led us to this. Nothing else. It wasn't a bad economy. Of course, revenues went down a little bit, but I mean, our revenues actually never went down. It just slowed down from crazy levels to somewhat crazy levels, right? And we're still having record revenue in the state of Washington. We never had a revenue problem. We had a massive spending problem. And for the fourth straight budget in a row, we are spending more than we take in. And that's just simply irresponsible. We're going to be back here again because we didn't fix any of the structural problems that led us to this place.
So of all the new taxes, and I mean, there's dozens, and there's some small ones, as you said, taxing the joy out of blue collar workers, basically anything they want to do. Want to put some Zin in, tax, sporting event, tax, beer bottles, tax, all that stuff. But then there's, of course, the big ones, B&O tax, what will likely be massive property tax increases for school levies, gas tax, capital gains tax, excise tax, sales tax, the Tesla tax. I mean, just name a few. What do you think, or where do you think regular Washingtonians are going to feel these tax increases the most?
Yeah, I think that what people need to realize is that when you tax business more, that a lot of the times business is forced to place those taxes and pass them through to the consumer. And so that means higher prices. You mentioned like a bottle tax. That's going to mean higher grocery costs, right? So I think your cost of groceries, your overall cost of living, gas, groceries, rent, housing, insurance, healthcare, you name it, it's all going up as a result of this budget. And we even heard private health premiums could go up anywhere near $1,400 per year as a result of this budget. And it's all based on policy choices, picking winners and losers. And they said that they had to tax the rich. But as I look across, what they did is like a reverse Robin Hood, stealing from the poor to give to the rich and the elites. And I think that's what people are upset about. The B&O taxes, those are on our small businesses as well. I have a small business. I'm getting a B&O tax increase that I can't afford. The 1% surcharge is only temporary for the largest employers, but those large employers deliver family wage jobs with 401ks and medical and dental and vision and everything else that people rely on. And I'm super concerned about capital flight out of our state, where this budget is a really good budget for Idaho, for Arizona, for Texas, because if you're a large employer, and look at Boeing, they moved a lot of operations to South Carolina before all of this, right? And so it's going to be devastating. If you're a barista at Starbucks, you will probably be affected by this. And it's sad. Because what did we get for it is the ultimate question. What did we get for the largest set of tax increases in state history? Nothing. We got nothing. We actually got robbed more. We robbed single mothers on the edge of poverty from their child support payments. I mean, it's unconscionable what kind of decisions have been made by Democrats here in Olympia. And we increased healthcare for illegal immigrants. I mean, it's nuts. Housing and essential needs. We actually kicked our own citizens off of housing and essential needs in order to give more to illegal immigrants. This was a session of protecting criminals. It was a session of giving pay increases to bureaucrats who don't even provide service delivery to our most needy citizens. And of course, politicians like myself will get a pay increase out of this session. But it's just phenomenal. I mean, the property tax sticker shock, people are going to feel that through their school levies. But if you're in a red, poor, rural, property poor district, you're going to get less as a result and pay more for your schools. It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and I think to end here, it is nuts and people are mad, but at the same time, I mean, the Democratic majority didn't happen overnight. I mean, people voted for this. They continue to vote the same people back in office who continue to outspend our means, who continue to increase taxes, and I don't have any reason to believe that this time will be any different. I mean, what do we need to do to wake people up and have them connect this crunch they're feeling to the people who they're voting to send to Olympia?
Yeah, it's a tough question because I think in politics, oftentimes people pay attention to the national level and they associate that with all politics at all levels. And it's not true. The state government is vastly different than the federal government. And although some things that the federal government does affects our state, but none so as much as the state government. And so it's a lot of hard work when you're already in a minority to try to message that. And when you have a media that isn't always on your side, as you know.
Yeah.
But I think people, I mean, we did a tremendous job. I mean, I always say that we're outnumbered, but we're never outclassed. And I think that we've done a tremendous job to kind of really spell out what's happening here in Olympia this year, probably more so than in other years past. The business community here in Washington State, sometimes on our side, sometimes not, depending on the issue, but very upset. And even the Seattle Times editorial board, Twilight Zone, is on our side, and so we got to keep pushing the message and keep, just trying to connect the dots for people because people are going to feel the crunch. And I think that based on a lot of the record testimony we had in Olympia on some of these taxes and other things, especially like ending parents' rights in schools, absolutely nuts that Chris Reichtal, if you don't follow his ideology, could just rip all the money from your school, 11th hour change to that bill. It's just absolutely nuts. And so, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. I wish I knew the perfect answer, but I love this state and I want to save it. And I'll just continue fighting on.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Seattle Times editorial board being on your guys' side on the budget front, but they'll turn around the next election cycle and they'll endorse Democrats, the same ones who put us in this pickle. So, to me, it's just they're talking out of both sides of their mouth and they're not helping the populace understand what's going on. Representative Travis Couture, someone needs to put together a killer montage of all your best speeches from the session because there were some good ones. So we appreciate you fighting so hard and you caring so much. I mean, I think there are a lot of politicians who care, but you really stand out as someone who gets very emotionally invested in what's going on, and it shows. So we appreciate you, and thanks for fighting for everyone, not just people who agree with you politically.
Thanks, Brandi. And I appreciate you too, covering all the hard news here in Olympia.
All right, so that's Representative Travis Couture. And again, and we have some breaking news that we're going to get to coming up in a moment that happened while we were playing that interview for you. I don't care about the Democrat-Republican thing. It's not about like dogging on Democrats or whatever it is, but they're the only ones with any power to do anything. So everything bad happening in our state is their fault. It is. It is. Anyone who tries to suggest otherwise is just helplessly biased. And if there were Democrats pushing back against these policies, if there were Democrats pushing good ideas, we'd give them credit. We've given them credit before. But this is about one party controlling everything and it leading to horrible consequences for the people of this state, who then turn around and it's like an abusive relationship, who then turn around and continue to put them back in office because really the media spins a tale that's favorable for Democrats. And so people aren't making that connection that Democrats are the ones doing this to us because the media treats them with kid gloves and covers for them, like the Seattle Times. Yeah, you'll go back, you'll complain about the budget process now, and then you'll go back and you'll endorse the exact same people who put us into this situation and voted for the largest tax increase in state history. Until we let go of this Democrat-Republican thing, vote blue no matter who, we're not going to fix it. So that's the key, and that's really the challenge here. That segment is brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. And a big thank you to Future 42 for sponsoring our weekly segment that we run during the legislative session, Politics Unpacked, helping people make sense of what happens every week of the session. We'll have our final episode of Politics Unpacked to sort of wrap everything up coming up this Friday.